From dodge to blueprints to the gacha system, Hyperglyph has found itself in hot water amongst the players of the highly anticipated Arknights Enfield. This is not a new thing. Heated discussions have been around ever since the technical test all those years ago. People see the potential of this game and desperately want to gatekeep its sanctity, its design, from what we call the gacha slop of today. However, after the Beta Test 2 special program held recently, a lot of people are bringing up more and more potential issues with how the game is handling sensitive systems. I just wanted to make a quick, casual video talking about it. There won't be much editing and it's just me yapping, so if that's up your alley, let's talk. I have education in game development, specializing in design, so that's the perspective and bias I can offer to you. I mainly want to talk about the blueprints, but I have a couple of small things to touch on before I get there. Okay, not to beat a dead horse, dodge. It's now been confirmed that perfect dodges exist, and that we can dodge twice in a row before entering a short cooldown. If you do it right, your basic attack combos aren't even reset, meaning you're able to get that final strike and gain SP even if you mispositioned and had to dodge. After certain events transpired months ago in the Enfield community, people have been discussing whether or not adding such a powerful dodge mechanic is going to diminish the strategic quality of the game, or make it too easy. A game like Zenless Zone Zero can still be hard at its most challenging content even with a parry and a dodge. So why can't Enfield? Well, it's largely dependent on its enemies. Proper enemy strength and variety makes or breaks the system. Bosses with unique gimmicks, environmental hazards, or sheer overwhelming attacks can definitely even out the playing field when it comes to balancing how strong the dodge is now. While I do mourn the kind of game the technical test offered, I don't dislike the direction that it's going in now. But here's the thing, we just don't know. We don't know what kind of challenges the game is going to throw our way now that this is a thing. I think doom posting is not a necessary or healthy response to a situation like this. Next, some of the gacha system has been revealed to us. From what it looks like, the featured limited character will stay in the banner pool for an additional 2 banners after their debut banner originally ends, and then they are temporarily removed from the pool. Reruns happen eventually. This has understandably caused more doom posting. While it's a smidge better than Hoyoverse games, it's much worse than original Arknights. There's worry about scaling, where it becomes exponentially harder to rerun units the more of them there are. There's worry about limited units and causing too much FOMO, but let's take a step back. The full details have not yet been revealed. We don't know if units are eventually added to a rotating shop like Arknights. We don't know if they're planning to do selector tickets every year like Arknights. We don't even know if they're permanently added to the banner pool after a set amount of reruns. Of course, us not knowing doesn't mean we can't voice our skepticism. Hyperglyph needs to hear our feedback after all. A part of me hopes that it's better than it seems though. Okay, meat and potatoes time. There are 2 sides to the blueprint discussion. The hope core, let players play how they want, and the doom posting, this option will not encourage players to do it themselves. Let's lay out what we know. You are able to use default blueprints to create certain functions. Those with a programming background can probably understand that. You can select sections of your base to copy-paste or store them as blueprints. I think this is fine. Especially when you get into later, more complex bases, allowing copy-paste within your own base is a valid time saver that doesn't obstruct anything. The hard part comes when you're able to share it with friends and the public. I can see what they're after: community engagement. Veteran base builders who want to share their fun and quirky bases, creative players who want to share a non-conventional base, players who chase after the most optimized and efficient bases possible. I think this is good. An aspect often overlooked in the continued success of a live service game is the community. The difference in how you treat a community can make or break the optimism players have of their favorite games. Just look at Destiny 2 and Warframe for a night and day difference. However, it's also important to actually get players on board the base building process. I've heard that players who didn't play factory games found the base too daunting. while players who were already familiar with those games found the base too simple. It's a live service game. It will most definitely get more complicated over time, so I don't doubt that Hyperglyph will provide a greater challenge to the hardcore factory players. But in terms of the very launch of the game, the biggest hurdle is the one players who aren't so factory savvy will have to jump over. You need focused tutorials, which may come off as hand-holdy to those who already understand. You need simpler bases, which may come off as too easy for those who already understand. You also can't force players to optimize a base, because optimizing is a different skill from just constructing one. This is a skill curve. We know that Hyperglyph wants to introduce base building to a larger audience, and believe that there is a wealth of potential base building lovers who just need the right push. The problem is just how they want to do that. What's the best way to present this kind of thing? It looks complicated from the outside, it looks messy, there's so many lines, so many buildings, and you're telling me I have to build this from scratch? It's a lot. But I believe those who have a drive to learn can and will understand. But here come shareable blueprints. With one click, you can entirely skip the part where you build the base to the part where you have a finished base. Simple. Did you understand anything? Nope. Therein lies the rub. It's a bona fide skip button. It's a genuine skip the process button that exists as mere convenience for a problem that doesn't exist. What issue are we solving here? That players find it hard to build a base? Is the answer an easier learning curve? Is the answer progressively harder bases? Is the answer community support and guidelines? Well, what about skipping it entirely? Perfect! Now players don't have to deal with one half of the game. I better not see the same people complain about no content. Without encouraging players to actually engage with the system, how do we expect them to want to in the future? But, well, that's not the full picture, is it? What about letting players play how they want? I want to play Final Fantasy XIV, but I really don't like the part where you have to spam dungeons to grind levels. Can we get a level up voucher so I don't have to grind every class? I want to play Genshin Impact, but I really don't like the part where you walk around finding chests. Can I get a weekly system that automatically collects chests for me? I want to play Warframe, but I don't like the part where I have to grind Syndicate reputation. If I fill up enough encounter points, can I just max out the daily grind? I'm stirring up the pot a little. I know you can pick apart those arguments and argue one thing or another, but my point is, isn't half of Enfield the base building? If we can skip it, doesn't that mean the effort to update the base is misplaced? Well, my answer to that is this. There are two Enfields, the one Hyperglyph envisions, and the one you imagine it to be. Okay, before I continue, can I bring up something controversial? I'm blowing the dust off this topic because it's relevant. Does Enfield need a story skip button? Actually, does any gacha game need a story skip button? Yeah, I know. Bear with me on this, it won't take long. When the idea of a skip button was floating around the Genshin community, they were divided into two camps. The, we need a skip button because who has time for all that? And the, we don't need a skip button because you're skipping half the game. The crowd that wanted a skip button said that a lot of Genshin's story was too long-winded, and there were real examples of doo-doo dogwater story quests, draggy sections in Archon quests, and unvoiced long world quests that made the experience less enjoyable. They wanted an optional button to skip something they found to be overbearing. The crowd who didn't want a skip button argued that allowing people to skip half the game while optional lessens the investment players have with the game. And once you start skipping, it's hard to stop. If you skip parts of the story from the beginning, there's no guarantee you'll even be interested later because you never build that foundation of interest to begin with. And if you never took the time to slowly get in tune with the game's rhythm, the higher the likelihood of someone dropping the game. It's good to have an option, but in my opinion, it's short-sighted to view it as a neutral tool, where players control the buttons they press. Because giving the option to skip the story could be giving the option to skip half the game. Then, you know what happened? The two camps cannibalize each other over it, bringing up rival games that had a skip button, or glazing the Genshin story, oh, we don't need a skip button. But did we ever consider a secret third option? Listen to what the skippers said. They weren't into the story, so what if the story was better? What if the pacing was better? What if it was more engaging and exciting? Genshin's story isn't perfect, right? Even the Glazers can acknowledge this. Instead of leaving most of the excitement to lore readers who read the completely optional material, get the whole gang on it. You know? Who would want to skip such a riveting story? If you still want to skip it, perhaps it's your alt account or you simply don't care enough. That's fine. But that's such a tiny percentage compared to what it would be if the story was so much worse. Does any of this sound familiar to you? The pros for letting Endfield players play how they want in regards to base building is simple. If you really do find the base building so daunting, just use the shareable blueprints. My only hope is that they lock shareable blueprints to a further progression level, so everyone is forced to be on their own for, a decent amount of time before being exposed to a cheat tool. This helps mitigate the issue. Another potential solution is adding a mode like Reclamation Algorithm into Endfield, or at least some kind of base building mode that does not allow blueprints, forcing you to take your skills to the extreme. The cons of letting Endfield players play how they want is also simple. Risk players never being curious about the base building, and thereby not getting into the game the quote-unquote correct way. The pros for no shareable blueprints, on the other hand, is that players have to engage with the system directly. This increases long-term investment into the game's content and builds interest in a core pillar of the game's design. The cons for no shareable blueprints is that the players have to engage with the system directly. This is not Candy Crush. A factory game is nerdy as fuck. Either you have a special interest in it because you enjoy puzzles and optimization, or you're autistic. Also, nothing is stopping players from just looking at YouTube guides for the base anyway. However, I think this roundabout method is actually better because it at least forces you to build it yourself anyway. You may not be thinking about it much, but each building you place down, each conveyor belt you mindlessly connect from the guide, you're subconsciously building understanding in your head. That machine does this, that machine does that. Connecting these give me this, connecting those messes up the flow. You do learn something from mindlessly following guides, but just very slowly and in an indirect way. But I find this preferable over no learning at all. So what's the verdict? Is Hypergriff spineless for these features? Well, I don't know. None of us know. There's endless what-ifs we can talk about. Oh no, they added perfect dodge. Okay, what if they add harder enemies? Oh no, they added blueprints. What if it's only accessible at a later stage? Oh no, the gacha is limited. Okay, what if they added old units in the shop and introduced yearly selector tickets? We just don't know enough about the game to just la-di-da slippery slope down some hill. Yes, I get it. It's worrying. You love the game. You don't want the wrong crowd to play the game. But the reality is we don't know what they'll do. Arknights, through all its flaws, is celebrated because of its generous systems where players can play however they want. Wishadal really is an accessibility option, but it wouldn't be what it is today if not for the mountains of additional minor systems and quality of life things that smoothen out the edges. Endfield only has one launch, one first impression. I understand the pressure is high, but we can only hope our feedback is heard between this beta and release, and that Hypergriff has professionalism in handling it. Hypergriff is one of the only game studios in the gacha space I genuinely believe have integrity, aside from, like, Project Moon or something. I unironically trust them because I've seen what Arknights is and what it gives to me. But I'm not saying you can't be negative. You can. Sometimes you can't help but worry. And Hypergriff is not perfect. They will make oopsies, but that is why we are there to tell them. But I just don't think doom posting is going to affect the community in a good way. I mean, Have you seen all those people who haven't gotten into Enfield, who want to, who aren't Arknights fans but want to get into Enfield, and they're like, have you heard about that controversy? I don't know. It's making them stay away from the game. Don't do that. Let's not doompost. Let's not add to the negativity because there's already a lot of bad actors and trolls who want this game to fail. Have you seen the live chat of the special program? We can't let that happen. We need to stand with this game, stand with Enfield. If the community stands with our backs straight, we can become a pillar that ensures the game cannot fail. So, what do you think? I hope the comments on this video are civil, eh? Keep it civil, eh? I see you down there typing. But let's have a discussion, alright? Let's have an open discussion. It's good to have discussion. If you're unhappy with things in this game, then let's talk about it. But let's not be dicks, let's not be dicks about it.